Hey y'all, it's your favorite cozy girl, Chi the Reality Queen, and I'm back again with another episode of Robe Chronicles. Tonight, we'll be discussing Married at First Sight, Season 16, Nashville. Okay, I had to take notes because this episode was a mess. Like, from top to bottom, like, just everything. Like, good for me, again, the drama, I love it. But, like, why are we here? Why are these couples married? We all know they shouldn't be. It's a mess. So early on, we see Dom talking about Mac. She's like, oh, he's a 6.5 out of 10 to me in looks. That shocked me because the way I thought she felt about him, I thought she was going to think he's like an 8 or 9. Like, especially when she was like flirting with the little stripper at the Bachelorette. I'm like, oh, Mac is going to be right up her alley. So when she said a 6.5, I was like, oh, she don't like him. I was pretty shocked about that. And she said romantically, she's at a 3 because he don't know when to stop joking. And for me, I cannot, like, I like to joke and I like a man who jokes. But I also feel if you're a little too jokey, I don't like you. And I know that sounds crazy because it's like, oh, you want them to joke, but you don't want them to joke? Yes. I want them to joke, but I also don't want them to joke. And I'm going to get into that a little bit later when I talk about Shaq and Kirsten. So we see Gina and Clint having a conversation in the water, and they're talking about like, oh, all of our conversations are so easy. And I'm like, they're easy because y'all not going deep. Every time Gina gets to talking, she's talking about work. And like, I want someone to have a personality outside of what they're doing. Like, I am so proud of her. She said she signed that 7-year commercial lease. She's trying to get this hair shop, you know, whatever. And it's cool. Like, I understand it. Excuse me. I like her passion, everything like that. Like, I think it's really cool. But at the same time, it's like you married a stranger. And if all they can talk about is what you do for work, it's like, do they really even know you? So I kind of understand Clint's frustration. It's like, girl, I gotta work 8 to 5. What else? Like, there's so much more to me than work. I love sailing. And I feel like hair to Gina is what sailing is to Clint. But because it's how she gets paid, it's her work, I feel like it comes off as like, you only talk about work. There's nothing outside of you. But I do kind of understand that like she loves it. It's her passion. But I do wish she would talk a little deeper, like of who she is, what she likes, what she doesn't like. And maybe that conversation is happening, but we're just not seeing it. And I kind of don't like that. I want to see more of who Gina is. Eris not realizing being 39 and never being in love isn't like a bombshell or is like a red flag. Sir, 4 decades almost on this earth. Do you know what 4 decades is? It's a long time. And in that time, you never met one woman who was like, wow, like I love her. Like she is just the bomb. She is dope. She is everything. Like no one has ever been that to you. Yes, that's troubling. But I think it's because he doesn't give himself to people. He is very unexpressive, very bland, very just like, ooh, what about sex? And it's like, if that's how you coming into stuff and that's how you moving with people, yeah, I can see how you've never been in love. It actually makes sense. I also don't like that this is like irking me. She continues to go above and beyond for him. She fed him grapes in the tub. She fed him lobster. He couldn't even extend his neck to get the lobster from her hand. But she had to reach across the table to feed him. And then in this episode, they got couples massages. And then she got up and massaged him. And he didn't give her a massage. Like, I'm praying that's a production thing and they left it out. But like, it looks like a very Jasmine give, Eris take. Like there's nothing he's giving to this relationship, like nothing besides awkward sex conversations and comments. Like it's a little weird. yeah, Nicole and Chris having another deep conversation. I said it before, I'll continue saying it. It is imperative that two people who have 8 weeks to decide if they want to stay married or not have deep conversations. That's how you're going to know. I feel like watching them talk, every conversation, we get a little bit closer to like, oh, I know what decision they're going to make on decision day, right? Like they're trying to flesh out what they don't like and what they do like, or who they are and who they aren't, you know? And it's crazy because there's other couples that you watch in other seasons where they get to the decision day and they say yes, and you're like, wait, why'd you make that decision? Like, y'all look like y'all didn't even know each other. So I think seeing that on camera is like, oh, they're trying to actually get deep and understand who the other is to be making the right decision come decision day. The only problem I have with them is I feel like they're both a little too focused on the negative. Oh, I'm just afraid you're not going to like this because in the past I dated someone who was like this and it didn't work. Or in the past I did this and they hated that. Or I didn't like this or I didn't like that. Or they didn't like this. And it's so much negative that they're speaking. I'm just like, y'all about to speak yourselves into a negative relationship because y'all keep bringing that up. Like, I'm not saying that it's not important to share and open up and be like, hey, this happened, but they're actually putting it on their new partner. Like, I'm afraid that this is going to happen, or I don't want this to happen. Oh, look at my little visitor. He loves getting on camera. But they're like, I'm afraid this is going to happen, or I don't want this to happen. And I think that type of energy, I don't think they need to bring it to this relationship. Like, I really, really don't want them to lose themselves in that negative energy. I am so excited. The group finally got together. I've been waiting for this moment. Like, I don't know why. I felt like they've been delaying it, but I'm happy that they did. And they were all supposed to go horseback riding in the water, which seemed so cool. In the morning, Mac was like joking or saying like, oh, I've gone horseback riding all the time as a kid and all this stuff. So, I'm excited. I'm like, okay, this is something that he likes. He's going to do it. When they get into the group, here comes Clint asking Eris, have you blown her back out yet? I'm like, Clint, are you crazy? Because even if that's an inside joke, like inside jokes are supposed to be between you and a person, not you, a person, and another person who doesn't know that they're in this inside joke. Jasmine has no idea that Eris made this joke early on, and now you're talking about her sex life because she's the person whose back is gonna get blown out if that's what y'all doing. But it's like, why would you do that? That's just really vulgar and really kind of rude for someone. Like, you don't know her yet. You don't know Jasmine like that. And truthfully, Eris doesn't know Jasmine like that yet either. So to make that type of comment, just seems irresponsible of Clint and a little like, just, okay, a little bold. Like, I feel like, what is going on? I feel like he should have kept that to himself or said it when it was just all the guys, because all the guys did hear that. You know what I mean? It was just crazy. Then they get into the conversation about attraction and how attracted everybody is to their partners. And as it turns out, Clint talks about how he's usually into dating thin and slender women and athletic women. And he goes on to try and include the fact that Nicole usually dates, doesn't date men with gingery features or doesn't like gingers, as his reasoning for why he's able to say this about her. And it's like, let's not do that. Let's not do that. Like, it's okay. What Clint should have said to not offend anybody is if he had said, I like women who are petite, everybody would have known what he was saying, but it would have been said in a much less offensive way, right? Like saying you like athletic women, like there are bodybuilders who people would describe as athletic. So, that person is muscular. That person could be big. So you don't really know what athletic means in that context, but you're trying to make it sound like normal. He's trying to make athletic sound like you're supposed to know it means really skinny, small girls. Like, we know because he says slender, but to me, Gina is slender, right? Like, I don't actually think that she's not slender. I think she does look slender to me. Like, is she curvier? Yes. Is she like Coke bottle shaped? Yes. But she is overall slender. Her look is slim, you know, but she's not skinny and she's not petite by any means, especially because she's tall. And it's funny because all of the women were like, yeah, that was my insecurity, or, you know, because none of them are actually really petite. I think Jasmine might be the smallest of all of them. Um, yeah, because we know Kirsten thick. Nicole has her little buff arms. Gina, obviously. And yeah, Dominique is not skinny either, like, you know, or petite or small. So I'm like, the comment does come off like obnoxious in that group, in that setting, you know. And it just was in poor taste. And I think he was just mad because she said she doesn't like gingery features or gingers. And I think he wanted to get her back because he could have told her that. Or he could have said, we found out that we weren't each other's type and we're not really as attracted to each other as we should have been in the group. He could have told her when it was just him and her that his usual type is this. But I feel like he wanted to say what his usual type is in front of everybody to know, like, oh, she may not like me, but I don't like her either. She ain't my type. Like, you know, he wanted to embarrass her because that is the type of man that Clint is. Clint is a big macho bravo guy, and you not gonna embarrass me without me embarrassing you too, because who do you think you are? And I feel like that's the energy he came with, and that's why he wanted to say what he said about Gina, because he definitely wanted it to be known that, like, I'm not the one that's so into you and you're not into me. That'll never happen. And he wanted to make that clear. And I think that's why he made the comment, right? Because he could have easily just said, we found out we're not each other's type, or each other's usual type, and we're not really as attracted as we should be, but we're, you know, we're trying to work through it. He didn't say that. And that was purposeful. Then they get on the horses and they ride through the water. And it's funny because right before they get on, I was mentioning earlier, Max says, oh, I've never been on a horse before. And now it starts to make sense what Gina's talking about him being like, her not knowing when he's joking and when he's not joking, because you said you'd been on a horse and you ride them all the time. Like, I don't know you that well. So I don't know when you're joking and I don't know when you're serious. So you actually have to like make that disclaimer where it's like, haha, just kidding. So people can know like, oh, he's joking, or oh, he's telling the truth. And you know what the horse did? The horse took a dump on him. Well, the horse in front, because the horse, he could feel the bad vibes. He knew. He was like, oh, he's bad vibes. I'm gonna let one go on him. And yes, it's in the water, so it's not that bad, but like, I don't know. I see it. Like, Dom is saying that he complains a lot. And if you're someone who's like, oh, let's just go with the flow, someone who complains a lot is kind of annoying. And so I get it. Do I think that she should give him more grace because he probably is awkward and doesn't know how to react or act to someone that's a stranger, and especially being on camera? Yes. But is it annoying? Also, yes. Then we see Eris and, I was about to say Gina, Eris and Jasmine talking. Eris is like, Gina and Clint basically just called each other ugly, but in a nice way. And Loki, he not wrong, but, you know, they're just not attracted to each other, you know? And then it's funny because then he goes on to say, and I think Nicole saw Chris and just wasn't attracted to him. And that's why she went from wanting to have sex on day 2 to not wanting to have sex at all. And then Jasmine was like, well, people could say the same about you. Yes, because that response he had about Nicole was a projection of how he felt about you. There is nothing to indicate that Nicole didn't like Chris besides the fact that Eris was feeling that about his wife. So he went ahead and projected that onto them. And I'm glad Jasmine called him out, because then he had to correct himself. He was like, oh, you know, I'm just trying to take it slow and whatever and what have you. which is great if that was the genuine reason, but you don't like her, and that's different. Yeah, so he's trying to say he's not focused on sex, and it's like, just say you don't really like her, and we can move on and enjoy. And then we see Gina and Clint talking, and Gina is giving Clint nothing. Like, she's like, yeah, But I get it. You just basically said you think I'm overweight in front of a group of people. I'm your wife. You don't know me. Yes, I understand that, but I'm your wife. If you don't have the decency to defend me in public, right? Like, I believe in the whole defend in public, scold in private. Like, yes, it's on TV, so it's maybe never really private, but like, coming to the group to say you don't like my size, like, that's not cool, you know? She's not having it. What's it called? Kirsten and Shaq dancing. That was nice to see. Like, they look like they vibe a lot. So I was actually surprised when later on Kirsten talks about having a problem with parts of Shaq's character. That was shocking to me. So we see finally the men meet up and then the women meet up. And Chris had a complaint about Nicole. I was thinking they was all hunky-dory and everything was all good with them. But then he was like, oh, she likes to hold hands too much and it's too hot for all of that. And I'm like, Chris, go ahead, have a complaint, find a fault. You know, like, I don't want it to be easy. I want them to work for this relationship. I do. But, you know, the fact that I thought Chris was just going to say, everything's perfect, everything's perfect, everything's perfect. But he actually had a complaint. And he talks about how they're both nervous with moving in with each other because they've never lived with the opposite sex before. So there are some issues that are going to arise with them, and watching them work through it or seeing how they do or don't work through it will help us determine, like, is this a working couple or not, you know? And so I'm excited for that. But for Clint to then interject himself and say, oh, you got to be careful because Nicole is going to walk all over you. Kind of like how you're doing right now, Clint, in this conversation. Yeah. Clint is overbearing. I don't know if he realizes that. In fact, I'm pretty sure he realizes it. But that's just who he is. He tries to dominate people. And he thinks that makes him better than people, but it really doesn't. Then Shaq talks about how Kirsten says he talks at her and she calls him MLK. And I'm sorry, it's still funny. Like, if I call a man Martin Luther King, you don't find that man attractive. You don't find that man attractive because, come on now, MLK, girl, I have a dream. I'm sorry. I just, like, when you think about it, that is like the opposite of sexy. So for like in mind, it's like, oh, like Martin Luther King, strong, black, hardworking, smart, you know, but it's not sexy. You're not calling somebody MLK. That's fine. Like, you're not like, you know, so it's, I'm sorry. It's just so funny to me because that's such an accurate description because I see it. I see it. Like, not that he looks like MLK, but I see that he kind of has this prim, proper, like, I need to make sure I'm giving the best answer. Like, they talked about Jasmine's pageant answers, but the same could be said about him and his pageant type, fully thought out, like, answers. And I get it. It's because he's very educated. He's probably used to doing interviews and speaking and doing all this stuff. So he's prepared himself for stuff like that. And it's like, Kirsten, that's what you said you wanted. And I guess she feels like, oh, I want to get to the nitty gritty. Like, I want to know who he is. But who he is someone who likes to joke or be proper. Either you like it or you don't. Then Eris was saying, like, oh, I think that Jasmine thinks I'm a 12 out of 10. When she say that? When she say that? Did she say that? Did she say you're a 12 out of 10? Sir, don't do that. Don't do that. I think what happens is Jasmine's a very nice woman who doesn't like she thinks that she should be her man's everything. That's who you're dating. So if that makes you think she thinks you're a 12 out of 10, then okay. But like she may not. She just wants to be married and she wants to be a wife. And since she's a church girl, she probably thinks she a Proverbs 31 woman, right? Like she thinks there is this behavior. And Eris said he's a king looking for a queen, but I think he's a king looking for a servant. He's looking for someone who's going to come and take care of him and do everything for him and just be like a sex slave. And then he could be like, okay, I have this person that'll have sex with me on command anytime I want. And so that's why his conversations about taking it slow and stuff doesn't come off as genuine, because he's always been so focused on sex. And then if he's not having conversations that are super deep that would make you think like, oh, you're trying to get to know this person. And maybe they are when the cameras aren't rolling, but it's not there when the cameras are rolling, you know? So there's that. Then you see all the women, they're all offended by Clint's comment, which, duh. It comes off kind of like nasty, right? Like it's mean, and I get it, you know. And all the women, again, they're not small, so that is why they feel that way, right? It's their own insecurity playing on what he said. Although I disagree with Nicole, she was like, oh, it's an offense to women with real bodies everywhere, because slender, slim, skinny bodies are real, right? Unless you're getting surgery, that is your real body. So, I mean, I didn't like that comment. I know what she was saying, so I'm not holding it against her too hard, but like, let's just understand that those are also real bodies, right? Bigger bodies are real, curvy bodies are real, skinny bodies are real, right? So I don't want anybody to get confused on that. But yeah, it was interesting, because then Dom talks about how Mac jokes too much and kind of complains a lot. And Kirsten then jumped in and was like, yeah, I also think my man jokes too much. And it's like, wait, where? Like, what? Then they, I was like, wait, does he do that? Because like I was saying before, I like someone who jokes, but not too much, right? Not too much. What's it called? Then we see Mac talking, and Mac's over here like, Clint, you're crazy. Gina is so sexy. I was like, did the experts mess up? Should they have matched him with Gina? And it's funny because he's like, because I don't see Clint doing much better than Gina, and I'm on his side. Because I don't think Clint does much better than Gina. Maybe he does skinnier than Gina, but I don't think he does much better in looks than Gina. I think he really should take what he can get. That's me, personally. Not Kirsten and Shaq getting together, and immediately Shaq is spilling tea like, Eris thinks your girl is ugly. She was like, no, he says she's attractive. Shaq was like, well, that's not true. I'm sorry. And I know Shaq told her so she could go tell Jasmine. And because Jasmine needs to know, like, stop doing so much for someone who's, when you're not around, calling you a 4 out of 10. A 4 out of 10. Let me tell you what a 4 out of 10 is. A 4 out of 10 is the same as a 0 out of 10. 4 out of 10 is the same as a 1 out of 10, because anything under 5 is you think they're ugly. When you go to school and you get less than 60%, you failed, right? 59% is an F. So that's the same as a 4, right? You failed, but they don't want to give you a 0 because 0 is harsh, right? Your teacher says, let me give you 32% because I don't want to give you a 0. Let me say A for effort. 32% for effort. That's what that 4 Eris gave Jasmine was. 32% for effort, for showing up, for being black, for being a beauty queen. He didn't want to say 0, but he gave her a 4. Then he's talking about, oh, I usually like Megan Thee Stallion, Serena Williams. He previously mentioned Lauren London. Eris, who do you think you are? And that's all I'm going to say. Because what? Okay, I'm going to let that go. But anyways, Kirsten and Shaq were talking, and she tells him like, oh, yeah, because me and Dom were talking about how our men joke too much, and I think you joke too much. And he was like, what? Let me tell you, he got a little sassy with her. And I think that's because he is no longer like, confused, fooled, shut down by her beauty. He's like, okay, girl, you fine, but you're not going to keep embarrassing me. And I like that kind of about him. He was like, nah, you not going to keep embarrassing me. You not going to do it. But I kind of understand what Kirsten was talking about, because when she said the example of her being in the airport and she was struggling and then he was making a joke about it, it's like, okay, one joke, cool. But when you see me struggling as your wife and you make a joke, that's cool, but why didn't you help me? Because why are you still joking? Like, that's what I mean. Like, don't be too jokey. There has to be a serious moment. You could be joking and say, oh, I'm joking about this or that, and I'm joking about you, but I'm joking about you in love, and I'm coming to help you, and I'm coming to support you. But you watched me struggle, and then you joked about it, rather than watching me struggle, helping me, then joking about it. Because if you watched me struggle, helped me, and then joked about it, I can laugh. If you watched me struggle, then joked about it, and you didn't help me, F you. Like, I don't care. That's not a funny joke. Sorry, Shaq. Maybe he's not the gentleman he thought he is or says he is, because a real gentleman, maybe you would have joked, but you definitely would have helped me. So I was like, in my opinion, Kirsten's a little correct on that point, in my opinion. Jasmine and Eris have a conversation. She says she falls in love too easy. And I'm like, girl, run. Like, don't give this man nothing. Pay him in dust. Like, she's like, maybe I shouldn't, give you all of me or open all the way up. And I'm like, yes, because he's not going to give you that. He's going to be the same monotone, straight-faced, expressionless man that wants you to do everything for him. Like, don't do it. Maybe get through the season. Maybe continue to be with him, but don't give him much, because he's not going to give you much. And you don't want to waste your time. Yeah. Then we get to the grand finale of Clint and Gina talking. And Clint says to Gina, you don't think calling me a ginger is offensive? And I know he wanted to rearrange those letters and act like she was calling him the N-word. Because, sir, what? Ginger? I have never heard that to be an offensive term. Like, maybe it is. If it is to him, I think she should apologize. So that's not what I'm saying. I do think what she said was wrong. I do think she should apologize. But let's not get to acting like she called him the N-word on our TV screens. And we are just like... And I get what she means. Like, I do hair all the time. And if people came into the shop talking about, oh, can I get my hair more ginger? Can I get it more red? Maybe that's why she doesn't think it's offensive. I'm sure no one comes into her shop and says, can I get more N-word hair? Can I get my hair to look a little bit more like these N-words? I'm pretty sure that is not the case. Like... It's not. So I do not like how he was trying to act like that's the extent of what she said. Like, that's crazy. And then, she was like, this argument is futile. You don't think you're right? I mean, you don't think you're wrong? I don't think I'm wrong. Like, there's no reason for us to go in circles. And I agree with her. At some point, you have to step away and just, try again on another day. Maybe we'll calm down. Maybe we'll see reason. Maybe who knows what will happen. But you know what I am excited to happen? More episodes. I'm excited to see what's going to happen in the next couple episodes, what's coming up. These people are a mess. I don't know how much more of Married at First Sight I could watch with them matching these type of couples that really aren't compatible. But if I'm here, let me be entertained. And I could tell you right now, I'm entertained. So you know what? I'll be back next episode. I'll do another recap. I hope you guys join me, and I hope you guys are enjoying these videos. Like, comment, subscribe, share, and let me know what you think. If there's anything you think I'm missing, if you disagree with me, if you do agree with me, just let me know. All right, you guys. See you next time. Bye.